What said, you pinheads? I always wanted to say that, like Big Boy on which Outcast jam, I forget. I think it's on the first one. Maybe West Savannah. Which is actually a cleaned up version of another expression. Anyway, this is entirely beside the point. What I'd like to kick to you today is some science about these people here. Johnny, Tommy, Joey, Dee Dee. In particular, Johnny, as he relates to the rhythm section of Dee Dee on bass and Tommy on drums. Johnny being the guitarist for Ramones from Forest Hills, New York. Now, the way a lot of people have come to approach their music as far as executing it, I don't know. Well, the first I saw this start to happen was probably when I saw the Effigies in '82, opening for Public Image Limited, I think at the Riviera, and I noticed that a lot of sort of punk guitarists were like nobody was really playing it like Johnny. Johnny was all about the downstrokes, right, and a very loose wrist on the right hand and a vice-like grip on the fretting hand, right? And there's a reason for this. It's because the way Johnny played guitar was very percussive. It was like a drum, right? So the way I saw the Effigies playing, for example, I Don't Want to Go Down to the Basement, which Johnny would play. Okay, now that takes some finesse to play it like Johnny did. As you can see, I'm not there yet. Still working on it though. And the way I saw the Effigies approaching songs of a similar tempo, and maybe because the tempos were getting even faster, Ramones' tempos, was sort of like, they'd stiffen the shoulder, they'd move the shoulder forward, they'd stiffen the arm, right? And the playing became kind of almost like a more sort of brutal version of folk music, like. Which is all well and good. There's no right or wrong way to play this stuff, but I think it ignores to approach the tunes like that in such a, you know, like just about every emo band I see plays sort of this, you know, Billy Joe Armstrong kind of style, and it works for them. That's great, but I'm going to suggest that what really distinguished the Ramones from almost all of their peers, at least early on in their experience as musicians, was this, I think by the second album, by Rocket to Russia, you could start to hear, especially from the live shows, go as far back as '76, they had developed a sense of swing. So it wasn't like the way you might program it, right? Without much dynamics in between the notes. It was more like notice Johnny didn't play on every single eighth note, and when you're kind of reducing it to this, everything becomes, every chord that you strike, it kind of sounds the same. And also you're losing some of the attack on when you're doing it downstroke, upstroke, right? As opposed to, so now this Johnny's general sound comes into play. Notice I'm not using an amplifier yet to demonstrate this. I will in a second. What Johnny brought to the Ramones, and people who used to, you know, were affiliated with the band used to marvel at his sound, especially walking around the hall during sound check. They'd hear these sounds. Early on, Tommy, their drummer and eventual producer, said he heard these overtones like, well, I haven't heard anything like this ever. And part of that was the fact that Johnny used a Mosrite guitar, a hollow body, that fed back really, really easily. So the only pedal he ever used was an on-off switch. So between the songs, he'd have to turn it off so it wouldn't feed back. And then while Dee Dee's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, you can hear Johnny hit the on pedal and it's feeding back because it's so bloody loud. Okay, so it's loud, but that's not really the essence of what we kind of euphemistically call tone. The sort of academic musical types call it timbre or timbre, and timbre is basically the attack of the note combined with the sustain. Now, if it's what do you call a staccato note, it's just mostly attack, right? But if it's a sustain chord, you've got attack and some sustain, which is also called flux. There's a band called Flux Capacitor. I wonder if that has to do with that. I bet it does. So, funny thing about attack is that if you take away the attack, and scientists have done this in sound experiments about how the human brain works, how we take in sound. If you take away the attack, most of us can't tell you what kind of instrument is opening the song. For example, Hand in Hand by Elvis and the Attractions. What was that? Is it a keyboard? Is that a guitar feeding back? We don't know. And that can be the fun of it too. But with Johnny, the attack is very important because he's doing a downstroke thing with his eighth notes. But he's speeding it up, of course. So there's a lot of attack. And I think with the sort of emo Green Day, FFG's kind of flattens out the dynamics of it. And also, Tommy from the Ramones got very good and very swinging very quickly as a drummer. And he discovered that just like, Ringo could swing like a madman on his closed hi-hat, Tommy could do that too, but very, very quickly. And so Johnny somehow locked into that. And in a sense, his guitar became another drum. So now if I mute the chords, it might sound like I'm just drumming. Okay, now let's bring some amplification into this and compare the two approaches, the downstroke, upstroke, emo. Sorry if you're an emo fan. I don't have any particular grudge in my heart against emo, except most of it stinks. Okay, now it sounds passable, right? Recognizable as a Ramones song. But I feel like it's missing a bit of swing. And I'm trying to play this well, right? Check it with the downstroke approach, the Johnny Ramone approach. And here's some of the swing. And I don't want to go down to the basement. Okay, Romeo, now go start your own band.